Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time you are watching this. Welcome back to the 75th episode of the Since I Was Young podcast for all things Heart and Midlothian. Join you as always, and myself, you Ramsey, and my co-host Alan Scrimger. Alan, how are you doing? Good, sir? You well?
Yeah, mate, I'm good. I'm good. Feeling a wee bit under the weather, but otherwise, all good.
Is that from the like getting like sort of beat like on do I get 6-1 by Celtic this week?
Couldn't possibly comment on that, could we?
Could not possibly comment, but unfortunately, we are going to have to talk about it. So, obviously, of course, that's going to be part of the episode. We'll talk about the two games, both home and away to Celtic. Obviously, by the result being 3-1 away at Celtic Park. I mean, we could probably take a positive from that, the fact that we scored a goal at Parkhead, and of course the disappointing result in the Scottish Cup against them just yesterday, as we're recording this on a Sunday, as we exit the Scottish Cup in the quarterfinals with a 3-0 defeat to Celtic. We're also going to talk about a wee bit of kind of where we're at now in terms of like like doing a few comparisons from last season for this season as well. We'll obviously talk a bit about Robbie. Sorry guys, what the hell has just happened?
You've gone black and white, mate.
What the actual fuck? I mean, I'd say we'd like to keep this. There we go.
Hey, we're back.
Like, was it my shirt that did that? I don't even know, guys. That's the second time in a week that my internet has been feral as fuck. We do, like, apologise about that.
Uh,
As I was saying, we'll talk a bit about Robbie as well, of course, and we will look ahead to next week's. Again, was it like we feel like we say this every single week, but massive game away to Aberdeen up in Pittodrie on Saturday. So we'll talk a bit about that. And as always, guys, before we start, if you aren't subscribed to the Since I Was Young podcast via our YouTube page, please think about subscribing. And if you want to check us out on our socials as well, please feel free to do so. They will be in the description and on screen as always. So we do hope you enjoy tonight's episode. So Alan, of course, we can start off with the two games. Like I said, the only positive from it that we took a goal at Celtic Park. I don't know the last time we actually scored there, but I mean, I guess we can start off with that. It was actually quite a nice piece. Was it passage of play, and they build up to the goal. And we can also talk about the. I mean, you could arguably say the man that is on form for this last few weeks, Josh Janelli, wasn't like a bad beheader from him.
it wasn't bad. I initially, in the negative side of me was thinking, he's offside, surely he's
Oh,
offside. But
it was a ball hair, like literally.
yeah, it was one of those. But yeah, Gino's been very, very good in the last few weeks, and I think I've said this before, and I'll say it again. The sooner we get him a new contract on the table, it has to happen. Like I can't, like the way he's performing right now, we can't let him leave at the end of the season. Like I'm sure there'll be conversations happening, but it's always the same, isn't it? You're like, right, until something gets done and announced, it's like he's still set to leave in the summer for nothing. And yeah, you feel a wee bit uneasy about it. But like the game at Parkhead in general, like it's funny because I was kind of like, obviously with these two games, you're thinking we're more likely to get a result against them at Tynecastle.
Mm-hmm.
We're surely more, there's more of a chance, shall we say. But yeah, the team news for the game at Parkhead was a bit
Yeah,
unusual.
odd.
Turned out we had some injuries. Shankland was out. Snodgrass didn't play. He brought in Atkinson and a few others that haven't played a lot recently. And I thought we actually, like, when I saw the team news, I thought, oh God, here we go. It's going to be a comfortable, comfortable hammering.
Mm-hmm.
And we're just may as well just turn around and go home. But yeah, I was actually very impressed with how we played. And it's strange to say that because we're so used to us going to Parkhead and just or Ibrox in general, and just kind of sitting and rolling over and letting them win comfortably. But we seem to be a little bit more up for it. I don't know if it was because there was fringe players like in the team and they were obviously wanting to get a start in the cup, so they were giving it an extra 10% than they normally do. Even Keogh did well,
Yeah.
and he came off the bench and did well at Parkhead. But yeah, like I'm getting ahead of myself. It was a good goal from Gino, and it was a very, very good way to start the game. Nice wee goal, although the lead didn't last particularly long, unfortunately.
It did not, Alan. It did not. But just while we're on the subject of Gino, I don't. What? Sorry, guys. This is unbelievable. I am half. Whoa! We got flashing lights. Whoa!
We're having
What's
a rave.
happening, mate? What's going on?
It's almost like the universe knows that we need to get this recorded relatively quickly, and it's just doing everything it can to just not allow that.
Fucking some black magic witchcraft shit. I mean, suppose it brings a bit of entertainment. But yeah, while we're on the subject, so I'm talking about was it Gino? So obviously, of course, like I said, out of contract. When we get to the end of the season, do you know, like, sort of like, have a tiny bit of a fear, like, in the sense, because we'll talk about him a wee bit in the episode as well. But I don't know, like, not that it happened straight away, but when I think it was last year when Barry Mackay was on fire and, like, like, he was doing everything right, and then as soon as we got him on a 3-year deal, I believe it was, then not that he started the climb, but the consistency wasn't, like, constantly there as much, and then there was that kind of slow, like, the decline like in the in terms of performances. Um, Not in any way that I'm in applying this as well, but, like, you feel as if maybe once Barry Mackay got his contract, do you not, like, would it be fair to like throw in that made him feel a bit more comfortable that he's got, like, a future at Hearts for the next 3 years, and maybe the drive to put in the performances week in week out maybe took away not the motivation as such, but, like I said before, the drive to do
Yeah.
well every single week. And do you think maybe, like, the fear, like, sort of, if you want to call it that, if we get on a like, on a similar deal, do you think that that could happen as well?
Don't know. I think Gino is slightly different in the sense that Gino's like had to learn a whole different position to play in. Like obviously he's playing up front these days. He's had to, I think in his own words, reinvent himself and learn to play in a different place, which has obviously worked because we've seen him up front scoring goals recently, which is a positive. I know what you mean about Barry Mackay, and I think it's a player in general. I think that's a footballer in general. When your future's not certain, you're thinking, right, I need to play to impress. And I think, obviously Gino's scoring goals and that's brilliant and he should be impressing Hearts. But there is also that equal point where he might be impressing others, you know, as much as I hate to say it. And I'm sure, Gino wants to stay because it sounds like he's loving it and, he's happy in the group and it's a good group of players that we've got in terms of, they all get on with each other. So I don't think Gino's in any rush to leave, which is a positive.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think for Gino, it would be a reward for his recent performances and his kind of move into the middle, more than anything else. Whether he would kind of take a foot off it after he signs a contract, assuming he does, there's not a lot you can do about that. But I mean, I think it's a difficult one. I don't. Obviously, we've got like 10 games to go this season, or thereabouts. I think it's 10 now. Um, and we need this Gino to be, the way he is now for the next 10 games or however many he gets to play. He went off at Parkhead with a knock. we didn't really look the same after he went off because he was the kind of out ball that we had in that game. But yeah, I hope that talks are happening with Gino and his people. I assume that they will have at some point because I think Snodgrass was another one that said that he's keen to hang about, and there have been some talks. But there's an element of while we've still got something to play for, leave all that till later.
Yeah.
And obviously, yeah, we're out of the Scottish Cup now, so we don't have that to play for anymore. But we have a very very tight race for third to secure. So there's still lots to play for this season, and maybe to avoid, like what you said, the lack of, or maybe the drop off, to avoid that, you'd maybe say to them, maybe have a quiet word in their ear and say, yeah, we are keen to keep you, but we're not going to talk about it till the end of the season. So we'll wait and see. But yeah, Gino's been really, really good the last few games, and I was delighted. Obviously, he went off at Parkhead, as I say, but I was fearing the worst for the game at Tiny because I thought, well, Shankland's not fit, Humphreys isn't fit. If Gino gets an injury, and I was at the St Johnstone game prior to the game at Parkhead, and he went off clutching his hamstring in that one. So I was thinking, oh God, he's definitely done. But by some miracle, he was fit and played at Tynecastle in the cup.
Well, exactly. Like, because again, like, I mean, we saw like when you said at the start, like in terms of the lineup, it didn't look a bad sign, not at all. But at the same time, like, I mean, if we didn't have was it Gino, like for the cup game, you start to wonder where the firepower, like, up front, would have been. To take us like sort of back, like, to the defense, like, it was also nice to see, what was it, Atkinson as well, like, get a wee start. Obviously there was like a bit of a debate in terms of the incident, where there was a lot of Hearts fans saying, when there was a foul what was on Atkinson. There was a lot of fans saying that it should have been a straight red. You yourself, on the day during the game, like, said, was it, to me, that it should have been a red, like, sort of from what you saw. You changed your opinion about it, like, sort of after the game. I did as well. Like, sort of, like, when I watched it back, was it a yellow or a red?
I think it's funny because I didn't get to watch the game in real time due to being at work, but saw the slow motion replay and the still picture that I sent you that many people will have seen of I think it was Bernabe, the Celtic fullback. I think it could be wrong, but I think it was him. And his studs were up. It was, it looked a bad tackle from slow motion and still pictures, but then these things always do look bad when you see it in that context. Watching it back as I did after when I got home from work, I could see why it wasn't given. However, the thing that baffled me the most is that VAR didn't even do anything. Like that for me is mad because we've seen other challenges, not just in Hearts games. We've seen challenges in other games in Scottish football this season where it looks not too bad, and then VAR comes along and says, actually, it's a bad tackle, it's a red card. Um, yeah, it's annoying, but again, that's another VAR conversation to have, which I don't have the energy to have
We've
it
not
right
got
now.
time for, absolutely not.
But yeah, I thought it was a red at the time. And then, as I say, watching it back, I thought, well, if I was the referee, I maybe give a yellow for that. But the annoying thing is, obviously, VAR can't give yellow cards. It can only give reds for serious foul play. So you're maybe, if an orange card was a thing, I would probably have given that. But yeah,
I don't think any orange cards would be allowed at Celtic Park, mate.
that's a fair point. That's a fair point. To be honest, I was more fuming because it was on Atkinson, and I actually thought Atkinson wasn't too bad.
No, 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 absolutely not.
But yeah, it probably in hindsight should have been a yellow. But the overreaction is always the same, isn't it? Like there was
Yeah.
while we're on that, there was a dive, and I will call it a dive.
Oh no, I know which one
Kyogo,
you're on about.
was it Kyogo again? I assume it probably was. Um, it was Keo, I think, that made the tackle. I think it was the booking that Keo got. I could be wrong, but because Keo got booked and then he got taken off. In fact, am I thinking of the wrong game? We've played Celtic that often that I'm getting
No,
confused.
no, no.
Anyway,
I know which one you're on about. It was the game at Tynecastle. I think it was few.
think it I think it was Keo. I don't even remember. There's
Maybe sorry, but by the
we've
way, like
we've played Celtic that many times recently that I'm getting post-traumatic stress from thinking about flashbacks and all the rest of it. But no, like I said, the game at Parkhead, we'll talk about that since that's what we're talking about. um, I was impressed with how we played, and I think we actually had a go and we tried to like press and tried to get the ball, and we did have a few moments, but and this could be applied over both games that, Celtic need half a chance to score a goal. And because they've got the quality to do that. We need to work hard to create chances against Celtic. And then even when you create them, you still got to put them away. So, but yeah, in terms of our recent trips to Parkhead, I'd have that up there as one of the ones that, Robbie tried something and it kind of almost worked. Although we obviously lost by 3 goals to 1, and we ran out of steam, like Robbie said at the end of the game. We ran out of steam towards the end of it. I think it was the last 20-25 minutes. It was almost like a training session for Celtic, which is frustrating. But yeah, if you don't have the quality to keep up, then you can't keep up. It's as simple as that.
absolutely. I mean, while we're just on the subject, like obviously it was in the post match interview, Robbie made it abundantly clear what he thought. Was that this is not to quote him, but like he mentioned about you essentially would need to get decapitated at like it's a Celtic Park, which at the time I thought it was funny as fuck. But um, yeah, like you need to be like ridiculously like sort of injured to get something like out of the referee. Um, which like again like in part I do kind of agree with, but at the same time, like we talked about this briefly, like sort of off air as well. Like do you think it's necessary for them to make these kind of comments? Like at the like on one hand, you think, well, like the game's done, so there's not really much point. But at the same time, on the other hand, as well, I think it's good, like in the sense that he's was I calling it out for what it is. But then again, as well, like we mentioned as well, like look, this is all like for all as much as fans might not want to hear it, and for all as much as I would love to go to either with it like to the Parkhead or Ibrox and try and get like a result. I think like in where we're at now, for all as much as was it as like a club, we've made like a fucking an amazing sort of turnaround from where we are, but I think some fans and yeah, like I'll like include this like by myself as well, where we maybe kind of got too caught up like in the hype in terms of how we're doing like sort of off the park, how we did last season as well. For all as much as the recruitment has been amazing, I think to think that we can go to Celtic Park or Ibrox, and think that we can win as such. I think that's kind of where we have to have a bit of a like a reality check. But
Oh,
in that same sense as well, do you think that like like to go back to the like the original point? Do you think it was necessary for to like for Robbie to make those comments?
we know Robbie loves a wee
Oh no,
soundbite, doesn't he? He
oh,
loves he
oh.
loves saying something. He loves saying something. And I mean, do I think he was right to say it? I don't. But at the same time, I understand why he did. I think he was kind of hoping that everyone would be talking about that rather than the way that we just kind of folded at the end of the game. But
Mm.
it's Robbie in it. Like he's such a wind up. Like there's times where I watch him and I'm like, Robbie, just stop. Just stop talking. Just no, right? Just give it up now, right? But listen, he's like that. He's like that. And he does it all the time. He winds people up. And there was you know, obviously, again, the game at Tiny, obviously Celtic came out victorious in that, but the Celtic fans were singing, cheer up Robbie Nielsen and all this because he gets under people's skin, and that's just
Oh
what
no,
he
he does.
does. That's what he does with these little comments. And you could ask a lot of managers in the Scottish Premier League if what he said was correct.
Hmm.
And probably if they didn't have a microphone pointed in front of them, they'd probably say, "Ah, he's got a point." But yeah, like I'll never say that Robbie's wrong because I love Robbie Nielsen. I think he's hearts as fuck, and I think he's a really really passionate guy. Getting caught up in the moment after a game and saying something like that, yeah, it maybe wasn't the right thing to say. However, I do kind of agree. But that's just it's a Glasgow thing in general. Going through there and getting anything is difficult, be it from the referee or be it 3 points or even a point. It's. But yeah, this is Robbie knows what he's doing, and I think people overanalyze what he says. Like, I don't know if you saw it, but there was a former referee that came out and said, oh, he was wrong to say that, or words to that effect. Anyway, and I'm thinking, well, what does it matter? Like, at the end of the day, did it affect the result? No. Like, if the boy gets sent off for the tackle on Atkinson, maybe it changes something. Maybe it gives us more of a chance. Maybe it gives us an opportunity.
Mm.
But you have to be realistic. Like you said there briefly, you have to be realistic about where we are. And we always hear Robbie and Joe Savage talking about, the ultimate aim is to split the old firm and try and, get close to them and all that. And I totally applaud that,
Yeah.
but there are some Hearts fans that go, what the fuck's he talking about? We're a million miles away from that. And I can see their point as well. But there's nothing wrong with having a bit of ambition. There's nothing wrong with saying it. There's nothing wrong with coming out and saying, why shouldn't we think like that?
No.
If we want to be the third best team in this country, there's nothing wrong with saying, we hope to try and get closer to Celtic and Rangers. Is that possible right now? No.
No.
Will it be possible in 2 years? Probably not. 5 years? Who knows? But there's nothing wrong with having ambition. And I think Robbie gets bashed for saying things sometimes, and you go, well, actually, I'd rather he says that rather than, well, our aim is to be, 5 points ahead of Hibs, or you know what I mean? It's like if you're looking up the way, and this is the only thing that I'll say before we move on to the next, but if you're looking up the way, then it means that those behind you are further away. So
Yeah.
that's the translation that I have. It's kind of like he wants to get closer to Celtic and Rangers because it means we'll be further away from the rest.
100%, Alan. I mean, just while again we're on the subject, so we obviously had was it had a Q and A like in last week there. We also got sent in a question. We're not gonna say the name just to save what was it like abuse like sort of being brought on, but we do thank you very much. But like it was about a question. We just thought it was a good like time we got was sent in. So the question was, do you think we are actually better? Sorry, I'm gonna start that again. I'm absolutely knackered. Do you think we actually were better last season? Therefore, this steady progress is a myth, and Nelson is a nice guy, as he is also a perennial loser. Strong words. Um, I mean, I'll throw in my view on that because it actually was a bit of a head scratcher. Like at first, like I think, yeah, I think we were better last year, but obviously you have to throw the existential factors that the fact that we had no like a European football. The injury list that we had was nowhere near as bad as what we've had this year. We've had like key players like like in the squad last year that we don't have like such a, like now. The fact that we didn't even have well, so like I'm saying this like as a good thing, like for like sort of this season, the fact that we didn't have Shankland, we didn't have European football, like I said, and kind of getting used to the like those like Thursday Sunday games as well. So I think it would be a bit unfair to say that, you know, we're worse off than we were last season. However, I think like it's weird. I mean, it's such a cop off to say like, oh, like it's because of injuries, but you know, to quote Andy, the was it Halliday? Like this injury list has been ridiculous. Like
Yeah,
we've had nearly an entire squad like sort of injured like in the sidelines, and it's not been like your fringe players. Like it's been the key players.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
and just to come to Nielsen, personally, I think it's a bit unfair to say that, like that the progress that we made like is a myth. Like I think what we've shown on the park in terms of performances, maybe to have the performances on a more consistent basis. Yeah, you could argue that, but I think overall, I think we have progressed both on and especially off the park as well. I think again, you do need to take into account, that the group stage football did have an was an effect on us. And I think you know when you look at the depth of the squad at that time as well, like we did struggle a bit. I mean, I think for this year especially, I think it makes it look worse than it actually is. Is that the fact that you've got now Hibs, Aberdeen, Livingston not too far away from us, whereas black and white again. Whereas at this point throughout last year, we were pretty much ahead, like in terms of like the points that we accrued, and how far we were. But no, like I don't think this steady progress is a myth as such. And as for Nielsen, like again, we've said it like like sort of all like along. You're never gonna have folk that are just like pro Nielsen. But I
No,
think for where we are now, I mean, if we were to get rid of him, who's out there? Like
exactly,
so yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
so that's my point of it.
No, I totally agree. I think I agree with pretty much everything that you said. I think like I understand people saying, oh, are we better this season than we were, or were we better last year than we are now? And I think in some areas potentially. I'm not going to sit here and say that we're brilliant all the time because yeah, like you got to remember as well, we were a newly promoted team last season.
Hmm.
Like let's not forget that. We
Yeah.
were in the championship not that long ago, and okay, it was due to the season ending early and all that stuff, but we were bottom of the table. When that happened, and we went down and we've come back up, and it's. I think people live in like a fantasy world sometimes where they think, we have every right to be the third best team in the country. We are the third biggest team in the country. We should be the third best team in the country. And I
Ah,
agree.
aye.
However, it's not that easy. You know, um, like you said, we had European football to contend with. We obviously had the World Cup in the middle of the season as well, which messed up the schedule of fixtures. The injuries, like you say, I don't remember the last time we picked our best full strength 11.
No.
You could probably argue all season he's not been able to do that. He's had to make changes in defence. He's had to obviously make changes in goal. The forward line's changed multiple times. The midfield's changed multiple times due to injuries in there as well. So, again, like I say, and I've said it, I think I said it before when we maybe at the end of the season, the end of last season when we did our review. But to me, Robbie Nielsen for me has enough credit in the bank at the moment.
Hmm.
And I think like I understand people's wants to get to finals and win trophies and all the rest of it. I want that. There's nothing more that I want than to see Hearts lift silverware, but in order to do that, sometimes you need a bit of luck along the way. And if you can avoid playing one of the old firm, that's even more luck. But you don't get that, in Scottish football. Like Robbie Nielsen said it before the cup game that if you want to win a cup, you need to beat probably at least one of Celtic or Rangers at some point. And he's right, and it's I get where the guy that posed the question, I get where he's coming from, and I understand it. But to say that Robbie Nielsen's a perennial loser as well, to me, is a bit harsh. I think there are some sections of Hearts fans that do not like Robbie and won't like him. And listen, that's up to them. And I'm not going to tell them they're right. I'm not going to tell them they're wrong. I'm not going to tell them I'm right. I'm not going to tell them I'm wrong. But there are people that will say, "Oh, I won't be fully Robbie in until he wins a trophy," and I can understand that viewpoint as well. But to me, progress like last season was an unbelievable season because we went on a good run. We were streets ahead in third place. It was practically done. And now, because it's not as comfortable now, everybody thinks that we're worse than we were. And it's like, well, I think the better question is, have we got any better? And I don't know if we've got any better, but it's due to the factors that you said, like the injuries, the extra fixtures, and all the rest of it. So it is an interesting question. It is an interesting question. And I think it's one of those things that at the end of the season, whatever happens, whether we finish third or not, I don't think if we don't finish third, I don't think Robbie gets booted, to be honest. I
No,
don't think Robbie's going anywhere,
no.
to be fair. But there will be at the end of the season, as there needs to be, that period of review where they go, right, say we finish, worst case, we finish fourth, right? Imagine end of the season, Joe Savage and Andrew McKinley will sit down and they'll go, right, what happened? Why did we not finish third? And they'll list off all the things that you've just said: injuries, European football, extra fixtures, depth of squad, all of that stuff will get brought up. A lot of that is not Robbie's fault.
No.
Do you know what I mean? Like I said it last week or when we did the last episode about it, that I don't like, I'm not asking for Hearts to play like prime Barcelona. I just want us to win. And if it means we win 1-0 and the ball goes in off somebody's arse, I don't care. Like, win, get 3 points on the weekends. And if you can go on a cup run, fantastic. If we can get to Hampden, that's brilliant. But is it a necessity every season to say, oh, last year was better than this year? We've not been as good. It's up to people's interpretation. And as I say, if you're Robbie in, Robbie out, Robbie shake it all about, you're going to have different opinions, aren't you? That's
Absolutely.
natural. It's natural, isn't it? I had to just but no, we'll we can save it to the end of the season when we sit down and have a chat about everything.
Agreed, sir. Agreed. Well, was I just to take it back to the games, Alan? So obviously, like we said, like was Celtic Park like actually looked a slight improvement in terms of the performances. I'm just gonna put it straight out there. Did you take anything positive from the cup game? Like anything at all? Anything at all?
Um, Xander Clark being in goal.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. I mean, I think one thing that we can both like agree on, and I think like again, in terms of like what we were talking about, like in terms of steady I was a progress. The Gorgie Ultras, again, turning up in
yeah,
fucking style and fashion, at the game as well.
yeah,
Like the like the massive banner that we
yeah,
had in the Gorgie end, I think was absolutely brilliant. However, again, this is going to sound petty as well, but like we all know as well that pyrotechnics are not allowed in Scottish football. But yet, literally, the whole Celtic crowd to manage to fit it in.
yeah.
But yeah. So what did you think? Was it of the was it of the Gorgie Ultras effort?
Yeah, solid. So obviously they got given the section for the game, and it's about time.
Yeah,
They have to get it for next season. I don't know if
hundred
it'll
percent.
still be in the Gorgie end, but it would make sense. They certainly turned up in big numbers and did well. Um, Made noise throughout, which was great. Great to hear. But it's something that it's not a criticism, because it's certainly not a criticism, and I'm not going to criticize them because they've been fantastic. In recent weeks and months, they've really kind of brought something that wasn't there before.
100%.
But they're it's I think the issue, I'm not saying the issue, I think the thing that the club will think about, and I'm sure there are people involved that have spoken to the club about it, and they're probably in conversations already, but there are season ticket holders in the Gorgie lower. You're going to have to ask them to move to a different area to accommodate having the section for the Gorgie Ultras. And listen, if I had a season ticket in the Gorgie lower, I'd be saying, yeah, absolutely, put me anywhere in the stadium. I don't care, because the ultras need their own section. But you are going to get some fans that might well say, actually, I don't want to move because I like this seat, or you might get old folk that need the seat because it's on an aisle, or do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah, I get you. I get
it's
you.
going to be difficult to kind of facilitate that, but they're going to have to do something to make it happen. The one thing I will say about the Gorgie Ultras that annoys me is I can't keep up. There's a new song every week, and like honestly, like, and again, this is something else. Like they talk about wanting, all three stands to get involved and generate an atmosphere, and it's like, well, the stands can't keep up. Like it's, I love it. I absolutely love it, and I mean, obviously being on social medias and stuff as I am, you get the videos and you see all the songs being sung and it's with the words and stuff. But obviously not everybody has access like that.
Yeah.
So I'm sure there's fans in the stadium that want to join in but don't know the words. So do
I mean,
you know what I mean?
well, I mean, was it like I'm sure. What was it that the club shop can like invest in? What was it like in a songbook or something like that? You know what
I get the Gorgie Ultras songbook. There you go.
I mean?
Absolutely. No, I mean they did really well. Obviously, they did their march to the game prior to it. The pyro and all the rest of it. With the flares and all that on the way in, and then the thing with the Gorgie Ultras, which I totally understand, is right now they're doing everything by the book because they have to, because they know that the club are watching their every move. And it's like if somebody does something out of line, and I don't know if you saw, there was an article that Barry Anderson did in the Evening News where he was talking about it and he interviewed one of them and he basically said, we're self-policing. We don't want any sectarian shite involved because we're not that club. That's not us. And I totally back that
Okay.
100%. But they're also having to tread quite lightly just now because they're trying to impress the football club.
Hmm.
They're trying to say, look, this is what we can do. And to be fair, like while the Celtic just before the kickoff, obviously Celtic did their daft wee huddle, and the Hearts players turned around and were applauding the ultras, and I'm like, that's good. There's clearly a connection there between the fans and the players, and that's brilliant. And you can only build on that. But yeah, the ultras were great, I have to say. But yeah, it's one of the more annoying things for me about the cup tie is that we didn't sell it out.
Yeah.
That's a concern. Now, there's obviously multiple reasons why it wasn't a sellout, being on the TV, albeit pay per view, but still televised. £30 is ridiculous for an outlay, and
No.
it's different if you're a single guy and you're going along on your own, or you know what I mean, or you're going with a group of mates or something like
Exactly.
that. But a family of three, a family of four, that's an expensive day out.
Very expensive day out. Yeah.
Yeah, so I can understand why certain sections didn't, or certain fans didn't go. And there's also that element of we're playing Celtic. Chances are we're probably not going to win. But yeah, like it was a good atmosphere from the ultras, and as I say, annoying it wasn't sold out. But that's life, you just, as annoying as it is, it happens. We don't tend to sell out these games for whatever reason. We should, because it was the biggest game of our season
Mm.
up to now. And yeah, that was the only kind of annoying thing. But you're talking about positives. I've spoken about the fans. I've spoken about Xander Clark and the fact that he was in goals, because without him, it probably could have been a lot worse than it
Mhm.
ended up being. I'm gonna give a shout to Keo though, and this
Yes.
coming from me is very is very
Very
baffling.
different. I know.
I'm sure maybe some listeners have maybe dropped their phones or something hearing me say that, but I actually think he did relatively well. Which again, by my standards, is about as much of a pass mark as I'll give him. He had his moments where he was typical Keo and his first touch was horrendous, but overall, he was actually not too bad. I'm not still fully warmed to the possibility that he is the Peter Haring of next season, but I feel like that might be the case. And yeah, listen, two games against Celtic. Okay, it was in this game that he got taken off because he got booked. Um, despite my confusion earlier, he actually didn't look too bad against a Celtic side that have better quality than us across the entire park. So, in terms of the Aberdeen game, which we'll probably just talk about shortly,
Mm.
I wouldn't be surprised if he played in that. And it might be a little run in the team, might be something that maybe he needs. I would say Atkinson needs a run in the team, but I've been saying that for a long time and it's not happening for whatever reason. So I'm slowly giving up the ghost on Atkinson, unfortunately, as much as I adore him and I want it to work. He just doesn't seem to be getting a run. But yeah, we'll wait and see.
Well, as you was said there, Alan. Like, I mean, there's not a lot for us to was it to talk about the cup game because it is what it is. But now we're out the cup. We've got 10 or more sort of games to go. 30 points up for grabs there. So obviously we're away to Aberdeen at the weekend. It's going to be an interesting weekend. Obviously, with Aberdeen sitting in fifth. No, sorry, yeah, fifth. Sorry, about 7 points behind. If they win, it'll make it really kind of interesting in terms of like, well, like, because Celtic are playing Hibs at Parkhead, so you can almost kind of guarantee that Hibs will get beat. You have to throw in Livingston there, who are in seventh, but if they get a win, that'll bring them like closer to the mix as well. St Mirren as well. Like, I mean, was it just as I see here? So St Mirren are away to bottom side Dundee United, and Livingston are at home to County. So two winnable games for them. And I've just realised I've just frozen again. Sorry about that, folks, but I'm going to carry on with pride.
Crack on,
So,
crack on.
so yeah, it'll be interesting, Alan. Like, would you reckon if, like, a win? Sorry, do you reckon even a draw or a loss to Aberdeen is going to kind of make things a wee bit nervy from now until the end of the season?
Think it is. I think we didn't really speak too much about it, but obviously the midweek game that we played at Parkhead against Celtic, obviously Hibs were playing at Easter Road against Rangers at the same
Mm,
time. They got absolutely cuffed in that one as well.
yeah,
So our loss there didn't ultimately affect anything because Hibs didn't pick up any points, so the gap stayed at 5.
yeah.
That was fortunate. That was a bit of good luck, bit of scheduling going in our favour. I we have like as I say, I'm just gonna have a little quick look because I had it up earlier, but I totally forgot because it's me. Our next five, like we've got Aberdeen away, Kilmarnock away, St Mirren at home, Hibs away, and then Ross County at home. So the home games being Ross County and St Mirren, got to get wins in those because we're at home.
Yeah.
Aberdeen, Kilmarnock, and Hibs away. Kilmarnock should be hopefully a win, but Aberdeen and Hibs both to play away from home is not easy,
No.
and that's before we head into the split, which we never we historically
No.
don't do very well in the
No.
league split. So the game against Aberdeen, and it's a huge game. You said it's massive, and it is. Every game from now to the end of the season is massive.
Yeah.
It's the equivalent, 10 cup finals is the way that, the cliche that you would say, but it's
Mm.
true. Would I take a draw at Pittodrie? Maybe. Um, Knowing, like you say, that Hibs have got a tough game as well, it might end up being a point gained rather than, two dropped if Hibs don't get a result against Celtic at Parkhead, which you would imagine would be the case.
Mm.
It's really, really difficult. Obviously, Aberdeen, they've got Barry Robson in charge still at the moment. They don't have a permanent manager as yet, but he seems to be doing a decent job. Whether they get a new manager in before we play them, we saw it with Dundee United. That new manager bounce that can happen. So yeah, I don't know. It's a huge game. It's a
I
huge
know.
game, and
I know.
I I hope that we have some of our key players back. I think Cochrane will probably be back. He was ill. He didn't play in either game, which was a massive blow as well. Although Halliday did well in his absence in the cup tie, but yeah, it's a huge game. It's a huge game, and I would feel a lot more confident if we had Shankland, Snodgrass, and Gino. And I'm not saying that, if we don't have any of them, we're in trouble, but the alternative options to them are the issue. I said it earlier in terms of forwards, we don't really have an awful lot. We've got Cool, who's not really done anything yet. Oda is not a player for this season as much as I like him and as much as I've liked the little flashes I've seen. He's brand new in the country, doesn't even speak the language. Oda's a long-term project that we're just going to have to, dip him in every now and again and give him opportunities. But to pin any hopes on Oda is not fair on him more than anything. And the same with Cool. Cool's 18 years old. He's only just got in the country from January. He arrived in the UK in January from the other side of the world. So, pinning hope and expectation on those two is not the best idea. Your other alternatives are the likes of Alan Forrest, who has just declined all season long. But no, I'm going off on a tangent. Aberdeen is a huge game. And are we capable of going there and winning? Absolutely. Will we go there and win? I just don't know. I just don't know. Put it this way, and I've said it so many times this season in tough away games that if we were offered a point, I would take it, to be honest with you. Because, as I say, I don't see Hibs getting anything at Parkhead. And if they do, you know what, then it's game on again. And the race for third is very, very interesting. More so than the title race, because the title's done. Celtic are gonna walk away with it. So the race for third is the real issue in Scottish football at the moment, and we're very lucky to be 5 points clear. Put it that way.
Absolutely, sir. Absolutely. Well, while we're just on the subject, as we're about to end the podcast, I'm going to throw in my prediction. Yeah, I do think we are capable of going to Tawdry, but again, it's just one of those places that we don't seem to do particularly well in. And with that being said, I do I agree with you 100%, and I'm gonna go for a 2-2 draw.
Goals.
Goals.
I will go for a. What am I gonna do? I don't know. I'm gonna go for a 1-1 draw.
All goals,
I think
all draws.
This might be the first time that we've ever done predictions and we both went for a draw.
No, we are honestly the positive vibes on this podcast have fucking certainly drained out the fucking window. But on that note as well, guys, we would love to hear what your score prediction will be for the game away at Tawdry. Do you feel it is going to be a tight race for third from now until the end of the season? And do you think we will see a decapitation at Celtic Park or Ibrox anytime soon? We would love to hear your thoughts on that. So yes, from myself and Alan, thank you very much for watching as always, guys. And if you aren't subscribed yet to the Sense of Young podcast via our YouTube channel, please think about subscribing and smash the like button as always. And if you want to get in contact with us via our socials as well, please feel free to do so. They are in the link and on screen as always. So from myself and Alan, for the folk making the trip up to Aberdeen next weekend, we do hope you have a good one, and we will see you in the next one after that. You all take care. Bye for now.